The quality of a playing field is dependent upon a variety of elements. A balanced root zone composition, the right amount of water and nutrients, healthy plant growth, application and management of cultural practices. All of these factors combine to create the necessary environment for success. Without a proper understanding of each component and how they interrelate, the final result can never reach its full potential. This is not unlike the Sports Turf Management Association itself. A strong foundation was needed from the onset. Passionate leaders were relied upon to cultivate these ideals, and maintenance took the form of precise organization and calculated decisions. As this process continued through the years, new leaders emerged from the ranks, blending the principles of their predecessors with their own visions for the future. As with any great story, this narrative was not without its trials and tribulations, peaks and valleys, jubilation and frustration. The individuals that follow were some of the early pioneers, whose passion and commitment helped shape the organization into what it is today.
I am Jim Watson. I worked for the Toro Company until 2008. I'm the one and only agronomist they had until I retired. Toro only did $9 million a year when I went with them. And now they do over $1.5 billion. I don't attribute all of it to my being there, obviously, but I grew up with the company almost.
My name is James McAfee. I'm a retired extension turfgrass specialist from Texas A&M University. I grew up in College Station, so I went to school at A&M, and tell everybody I just went to the 13th grade. And then once I got out of A&M, did my bachelor's and master's at A&M, and then I went to Purdue and worked under Bill Daniels for my PhD.
My name is Steve Cockerham. I'm Director Emeritus of Agricultural Operations at the University of California, Riverside. And as my past position, I had a turfgrass research program. And that research program focused on sports fields. An early job was working in cooperative extension in Pennsylvania for Penn State University up in the Northeast in the Scranton area, and that was my introduction to sports fields. I've had a lot of people who influenced me at one point or another, and probably the early one was the golf course superintendent, or he was a pro at the golf course I worked in, Charles Almany. From there, it was Dr. Bill Daniel at Purdue, and he guided me through that program. And then I was the student labor for Dr. James Beard, who became the grand guru of turf. And so from there, I met Vic Youngner in California, and Dr. Youngner was a professor at UCLA and UC Riverside, and he was pretty much the founding guru of turf in the West Coast, as far as at least the science of turf was concerned.
In 1961, I graduated from the Ohio State University, and I went to work for the Scotts Company in Marysville, Ohio. And there they assigned me to the plant breeding and plant development division. And there I worked with Dr. John Long, who's a plant breeder and geneticist from Texas A&M. In my case, it was kind of unique or a little different because I came into the research side. When I went to school here in the agronomy department, there wasn't any courses in turfgrass. So I specialized in forages and corn and soybeans. Then going with Scotts, I had to learn the turfgrass business, and I learned it quite quickly from my superiors. And our job there was trying to get this patented through the U.S. Patent Office, which was unique because no Kentucky bluegrass has ever been patented. And so, to make a long story short, in 1964, we were able to get the first Kentucky bluegrass ever patented.
I'm Dick Erickson. I worked all my life at stadiums, grounds, and building maintenance of stadiums. The first stadium it would be actually was it still exists today. It's a little high school. It's the Central Stadium in St. Paul, and it's a high school right behind it, Central High School, and that's where I actually started. There was a groundkeeper named Jake Jacobson, an old timer, and he kind of taken a liking to me, and I was working there. I'd work when I was in high school, early high school, and all we got was a pass for the next football games and things. That was our salary. I went to Lexington Park. They called me the superintendent of building and grounds because you had to take care of the park, and I always did maintenance work. And in '56, they built Metropolitan Stadium, and then 4 years later, in 1960, in the Washington Senators, which moved to Minneapolis, and they called themselves the Minnesota Twins. That's how I was born. And in 1965, we were world champion, which was pretty good for our area. And then they built the Metrodome, and we moved into the Metrodome, which was altogether a new experience.
My name's Steve Whiteman. I am retired at the moment, but I've been retired about a year and a half. I started my career back in 1973. I became a field manager for the City and County of Denver Parks and Recreation Department, and then had the opportunity to go manage Bear Stadium back then, as it was called. Later became Mile High Stadium in 1976. I worked there 13 years, taking care of the field for both the Denver Broncos and the Denver Bears, which was the AAA minor league baseball team. In 1988, I had the opportunity to move to San Diego and become the head groundskeeper at Jack Murphy Stadium then, later became Qualcomm Stadium. And I was there from December of 1988 through March of 2012 when I retired.
I'm Connie Rudolph, and I have been in the sports turf industry for 22 years now. It is a male-dominated industry, but quite honestly, I like it better that way. I've always worked with men, it seems like. And I get along well, and it's been a good fit for me. And I think being the only female, it's a double-edged sword. You tend to get more attention, and people are looking at you. But on the flip side, you got to do a good job and show that you're capable of surviving in this male-dominated profession.
I'm Mark Hodnick, and I spent most of my career, 35 years, in the sports industry. I actually got started at Cal Poly University in Pomona, where I got my degree there in ornamental horticulture. And as it would happen, as Kent Kurtz, Dr. Kurtz, was assigned as my faculty advisor. So my first day I sat down with him and he asked me what I wanted to do, and I said I want to be a forest ranger, and he said, no, you don't. He said that if you do that, you'll end up selling washing machines at Sears. What you want to do is you want to go into turf management because you will always have a job. As my career progressed, I ended up at Cal Poly Pomona again in charge of their grounds. Worked there for 12 years until I went to work for the city of Pasadena as their parks and forestry manager, and had some responsibilities with the Rose Bowl and their parks and all of their sports fields. And then I started to move up the ladder and kind of got away from directly being involved with sports fields. I went to the city of Claremont, where I was the assistant director of public works there, and left there to become the facilities and public works director for the city of Indio, where I ultimately retired from.
My name is George Toma, usually known as the nitty-gritty dirt man. I'm 84 years old and been in this game for 70 years. I got a job on a chicken farm, which I got 50 cents a day, got lunch, and worked for a great, great farmer. He taught me so much in life about things I still use at the Super Bowl today. And in 57, John McHale, the president of Detroit Tigers, called me and said, we just gave Kansas City permission to talk to you. And I said, George, the best thing for you to do is take the Kansas City job, because if you screw it up, nobody would ever know. In my years from 1957 in Kansas City to my years in 1999 with the Kansas City Royals, we needed to have some type of organizations to help each other out, that if one had a problem, we go and fix that problem.
One thing that we noticed that people kept everything to themselves. The groundkeepers, the old groundkeepers, I know, nobody ever told me. I talked with different ones, but yet nobody would share their information. George and myself, we talked back and forth, and we talked about that we should get somewhere that everybody can kind of share their information. And that was really one of the reasons the main reason why we started Sport Turf.
STMA had started out as affiliated with Park Maintenance Magazine out of Appleton, Wisconsin, and then one day in a cold wintry day in Denver, there was a park maintenance conference, and there was a gang of us who got together and decided that we wanted our own Sports Managers Association. So we split from Park Maintenance Magazine and became our own organization. We became the Sports Turf Managers Association.
I remember Bill Daniels, who was a professor at Purdue, Dick Erickson, who was a groundskeeper in Minnesota, George Toma, who was president. They kind of were the nucleus that founded the organization.
And after that, they start pushing it. They pushed it by having little STM meetings, maybe at University of California, Irvine, or Kansas City, just getting together.
The whole purpose for the groundskeepers getting together was to promote the education, and learning what someone else did at their field and sharing those ideas.
One of our main objectives is kind of define our goals in STMA, how we're going to increase STMA membership, what do the members need and want, and there were a lot of unanswered questions, and we were trying to sort through them.
And it was really Dr. Kurtz who sort of organized that, spearheaded that whole thing. And so STMA was in Kent's garage. He had this little office that you could barely find a desk in. And he started really managing the STMA and trying to raise its profile and what it was.
Some of the big people that were volunteering at that time for the organization included, of course, one of our founders, Harry Gill, who was always an integral part on the board at the very early stages of STMA, because it was really his vision, I think, that really tapped the roots for this organization. And then there was a lot of other people in the industry that jumped on board to help carry that forward.
And that's pretty much why the STMA evolved, was that there was a bunch of pretty darn good groundskeepers decided that they needed to contribute to the industry, and the industry needed to develop professionalism.
And so we started mailing this newsletter out to them. And Kent was always hustling. He tried very hard to get corporate sponsors and do things that would try to raise our profile and raise money.
And that was the big thing was trying to solve the money problem, put together a program that would attract people so that we could have an annual meeting.
I remember very well when Gil Landry from Georgia was elected president, and he was elected 2 or 3 times. I give him credit for getting the finances of STMA squared away.
Kent's connections with the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America, the GCSAA, he used those to convince them that they could allow us to have a part of their conference. And so people could come to the STMA conference, but then be able to go to the golf course show because they were delegates to the conference, and so they got into the show, and so we were able to piggyback on that.
First STMA national meeting I went to was in Florida. The thing that I guess I always remembered the most was how friendly and how open everybody was. Even if they didn't know you, they were more than willing to sit down and visit with you, share information.
Everything came together as a whole, the education and the people that we met, the networking. It was really opened my eyes to what all was out there and the resources that I would have available to me.
You know, they wanted you to succeed, and they wanted to help you, and they wanted to tell you their stories to make everyone better from their mistakes. And I think that's really might be the crux of this total organization is that theme right there, is being able to share, you know, trials and tribulations of everyone's business in hopes of making it better, making it more professional.
And these were the days when Harry Gill was still alive, and so the Lawn Ranger Award, which now is called the Harry Gill Award, was actually being presented by Harry to the people who won it.
And I give all the credit in the world to Harry Gill for he seen this, that we needed it. And Dr. Daniels and Dick Erickson, that we could see, then it was formed.
But I think at that point, we probably moved to the next level for STMA, where we actually started getting out of debt. We had the trustees, were an organization who understood our association, and they worked for very little money, and they worked very hard for that. And they did an awful lot of writing for articles, interviewing groundskeepers and from all levels, and making it a really good marketing tool for our association.
We also at that time approached Denny Goldstein, who had been publishing a number of landscape-related magazines, and asked if he would publish a magazine for us. And that's when the newsletter became the magazine, became Sports Turf Magazine.
Our membership now had increased to a point where we felt we needed to move on to the next level, and we wanted to hire our own staff personnel to actually manage our association. And that's when Kim Heck became our executive director, and she definitely took us to the next level immediately. She came from the Golf Course Superintendents Association as head of a department there with $1 million budget, and she has done a remarkable job for our association.
Looking forward the next 40 or 50 years, I visualize a lot of changes because there's a lot of ways we can improve. We just need to encourage more education, how to do it, and better fields. And that's one of the missions of STMA, and they're doing a great job on it. It's just that we just need to keep expanding and do better.
I think the major changes you're going to see in the future are probably going to be related to safety, and that's going to mean better quality fields.
The cheapest insurance for an athlete from preschool all the way up to the professional level is a good, safe playing field.
Members of STMA will develop techniques to keep the quality of play up. That's your job, and I think they will do it. I think the researchers will play an ever-increasing role in the improvement of turf grass, and I think STMA members will utilize that research to a greater extent than they are now.
Sports is a big deal. You know, you just go out on any weekend and see all these kids playing soccer and little league sports. So I just see it growing. We're going to need more fields. We're going to need more sports field managers, people to manage these fields. So I see it continuing to grow.
I'm really happy to see what STMA is doing now for young people, for people just getting into the business. job opportunities posted on their website. They're having educational programs at the meetings. They're having regional conferences. They got a lot of links to other areas to get information. STMA is a good focal point to bring this all together and to get your information.
I think education is very important, and for all sportsmen, you got to be educated in a lot of different fields. The main thing is don't lax, keep up all the time. Don't be too comfortable all the time with what you got. Try to improve what you got already.
I would have to say for somebody graduating from school and looking to get into this profession that biggest thing is surround yourself with people who encourage you and offer you guidance and support. You know, obviously STMA is a great resource.
I encourage you to join, be a member, use it. It's really helped me over the years, and it still does.
We just have to stay together, and we have to let the people worldwide know that there's an organization called STMA, and they're here to help you.